do poisonings, palace politics, and do-it-yourself aphrodisiacs have in common? Apparently, a seinen demographic. Yes, despite featuring a blunt, poison-proof, and sexually literate heroine who clearly has no time for anyone's nonsense, the Apothecary Diaries, or more specifically its manga adaptation, is technically a seinen series, the kind that are usually targeted toward young men. Right alongside titles such as Goblin Slayer. Yep. Maybe I could see it. Let's take a step back. In Japan, manga demographic labels aren't always as much about the story as they are about where it's published. In terms that Connie here can understand, it's like sorting your snacks by store aisle instead of flavor. Doesn't always make sense, but occasionally it works. Shonen, shoujo, seinen, josei, they refer to the magazine editorial demographic, not the actual content. Which is how we ended up with Attack on Titan, a body count heavy war story with enough trauma to fuel 10 therapy sessions being classified as shonen. To be fair to them, Japanese publishers seem far less concerned about how media influences kids. What, your child watched someone get eaten by a 50-foot naked man? He'll be fine. Now, it's not like these demographic labels are carved into sacred manga stone. Honestly, if I judge myself by gender expectations, I'd be having an existential crisis every day, right alongside my morning coffee. That's different, Connie, just shut up. Still, it is kind of weird that the Apothecary Diaries, with its smart, subversive female lead, a series written by a woman having such clear feminist themes, couldn't even have at least one of its 2 manga adaptations in an explicitly female-targeted publication. I know what you're thinking, and yes, it is giving market strategy over vibes. The most obvious and likely reason for publishing the Apothecary Diaries as seinen is actually pretty straightforward: reach. Shonen and seinen magazines often have broader, more varied readership, including a lot of women, compared to their shoujo and josei counterparts. Hang in there, Connie. I know circulation stats aren't exactly edge-of-your-seat material, but bear with me. Looking at these Japanese magazine circulation numbers for the later part of last year, shonen and seinen accounted for around 80% of all manga in circulation during that time period. So, if you're aiming for the biggest possible audience, it's not surprising that this is where one might go. And it's not just guys reading these mags. I've seen some recent estimates suggest that Shonen Jump's male-to-female reader ratio is actually pretty close to 50-50, which frankly is more balanced than most YouTube comment sections. Unfortunately, shoujo and josei series don't get the same cross-gender love. Their male readership is still pretty limited, even when the stories aren't all about the stereotypical romance plot some expect. There are exceptions, of course. Chihaya Furu, a josei about karuta, or as I like to call it, competitive poetry slapping, has a surprisingly strong male fanbase. Some sale estimates from 2018 suggest that almost 40% of his readers were men. What do you think, Connie? Was it the poetry or the dramatic card slapping? I was curious what the wisdom of the internet had to say on the matter. I know, brave of me. And I found a couple of takes. A common opinion I found was that Maomao isn't typical of your average female audience targeted heroine, for better or for worse. This is an extract from a review of a similarly themed shoujo manga that puts the perspective more clearly. Begin quote. If you like the typical shoujo lead who is confident, positive thinking, hyperactive, you will love this manga. If you find these types of leads annoying or unlikable, please don't waste your time thinking you are going to get Maomao. End quote. And fair, Maomao isn't exactly big on optimism or makes emotional speeches. She does often shrug and say, "Not my problem," and then proceeds to solve that problem anyway. And she would absolutely step over you mid-swoon to investigate poison residue. Look at her being all excited about a well-crafted murder plot right in front of the actual victim. She's pragmatic, analytical, and tries to appear emotionally detached most of the time. The kind of person who treats a romantic confession like a case file. Oh no, am I doing the long-winded media theory thing again? Now that I have your attention again, I'll keep it moving. The point is, while the perspective may come from a limited exposure to more diverse shoujo and josei titles, I can kinda see how it developed. It does seem that many of the popular shoujo heroines are more likely to stand out through qualities such as empathy, generosity, passionate ambition or righteous desire for justice, a bit in contrast to Maomao's dry pragmatism and methodical approach to solving situations that arise. She does appear to have more in common with a character like Freerun than with a character like Yona. But does this mean she's a character that turns away in female audiences? Not at all. According to published Oricon data, in 2024, this series was the 4th best-selling manga in Japan, making it most likely the manga title most read by Japanese women, more so than any explicitly associated with a female demographic label. I know, big numbers. You'd think she was giving away aphrodisiacs with every volume. As a side note, from what I could gather, Jujutsu Kaisen is probably its closest rival in terms of manga bought by women last year, but that's a story for another time. Now, let's talk about the anatomy in the room. Don't worry, I'm not getting that graphic. You can stay. The Apothecary Diaries has quite a few moments that flirt with what some might call, fanservice? The dreaded male gaze, the occasional sex joke, and all that oh my content. Maomao doesn't just mention sex, she casually drops facts about STDs, aphrodisiacs, fertility, and sexual positions like she's teaching a high school science class. No, really, look at her go. Here's the thing. There's still this outdated idea that women don't like crude or sexual content. That we're all delicate flowers who faint at the word boob. Yeah, exactly like that. And while the industry clutches its pearls, women are over here laughing at boob jokes. And honestly, the Apothecary Diaries is pretty tame. In Japan, the shonen series Gintama, whose humor was most certainly not for the pure of mind, was unexpectedly more popular with women. Turns out, we don't mind sex jokes, we just want to be in on them. And that's feminist writing. Not the sparkling monologue kind, but the kind that's messy, clever, and knows exactly what it's doing. Turns out, women like stories where the heroine uses brains over beauty, and can also casually insult someone's libido. I think the Apothecary Diaries proves one thing. Manga labels are business decisions, not belief systems. So maybe the right question isn't why this manga wasn't explicitly labeled, I don't know, josei for example, but why so many still look to place women's tastes in a box. And finally, if you've made it this far, why not subscribe to our channel and be notified whenever we publish new content? Don't forget to drop your favorite gender-defying anime or manga in the comments, and we'll see you next time.